Welcome to today's training about TISAX. What is information security? According to Wikipedia, information security serves to protect against dangers or threats, to avoid economic damage, and to minimize risks. There are 3 protection goals in information security. 1. Confidentiality. 2. Integrity. 3. Availability. The protective measures to be implemented must never be limited to one protection goal. For example, when we install an 8-factor authentication, we take very good care of confidentiality, but this excessive method puts availability at risk. In such a case, if I am missing one of the 8 factors, it is no longer possible to register, and then I am no longer able to work. What is ISMS? The abbreviation ISMS stands for Information Security Management System. According to Wikipedia, it says, the establishment of procedures and rules which serve to permanently define, maintain, and continuously improve information security. When developing an ISMS, the first thing to do is to find out which contractual or legal obligations are currently being considered and how the processes are defined. If there was no ISMS before, it is, put somewhat blatantly, somewhat confused. Not all processes are clearly defined according to contractual and legal obligations. So we have a lot of work ahead of us if we now take a closer look at these processes and define them clearly under the new conditions. The goal is to establish a stable situation in which, also exaggerating slightly, each process is clearly defined and everyone knows what to do and how. Finally, we will take another look at the process graphics. As you can see, all kinds of records in a working ISMS form the basis for the whole process. Only if we record everything that happens can we improve, learn from mistakes, develop quick solutions, and avoid future mistakes. Okay, but what is TISAX? Before TISAX certifications existed, random audits were carried out by automotive contractors. In such a case, the customer sent an auditor who then checked about 20 random controls or test questions from the VDA ISA test catalogue. This check was called the Information Security Assessment. Some of the companies that have been audited have said that they are VDA ISA certified, or that they are Volkswagen certified. This has therefore often led to confusion. The main disadvantage of this audit was that the companies were audited several times. So it happened that Volkswagen sent an auditor in spring, BMW in summer, and Porsche in winter. And each of these audits were not always the same, certainly not always the same questions. That resulted in an incredibly big effort for everyone involved. Since 2018, there is one independent certification. In this case, you commission an inspector yourself, but he always checks the full VDA ISA catalogue. This means no longer 20 controls, but between 52 and 85 controls, depending on the additional modules. The testers and the test results are managed centrally and are therefore trusted. All TISAX participants can share the test results on an exchange platform. Therefore, the exchange has been added. So the word ISA became TISAX. Strictly speaking, there is no TISAX certification at all. Companies are certified according to VDA ISA and are participants in TISAX. Which TISAX labels are available? Maybe you have heard of them. There is no TISAX certification. TISAX currently distinguishes 10 different labels. Depending on which test objectives you have specified during the audit and which test you have passed, your company will receive one or more TISAX labels. The basis starts with a basic test information. Info High is the first and smallest label available in TISAX. Info High is required if you need a release for the classification Confidential. Info Very High is required by all companies that need access to secret information in addition to confidential information. In TISAX, there are also additional modules that allow additional approvals. There are the additional modules, prototypes, connection, and data protection. In the additional module, prototypes, there are 4 labels. Proto parts is required when working on physical prototype parts. Proto vehicles when working on or with physical prototype vehicles. Test vehicles is a special label for all companies that perform tests with physical prototype vehicles. And then there is a label for all photographers, film productions, or event agencies that have access to physical prototypes. For example, in preparation for a commercial or the event where the new vehicle is to be presented. This label is called Events and Shootings. The additional module Connection is needed if you are connected to the network of the car manufacturer in any way, for example with a dedicated line or a VPN connection. If this happens for confidential information, you need the label Con High, for secret therefore Con Very High. The last additional module is called Data Protection, unfortunately. Actually, this label is only meant for data processors in terms of the GDPR. If personal data of an automobile manufacturer are processed on a large scale, so-called Data Processing Agreement, DPA for short, must be concluded according to the GDPR. For TISAX, there is the release label Data. And if the data processing also involves personal data of a special category, such as health data for example, the TISAX label Special Data is required. As you can see, it is not enough to simply speak of a TISAX certification. What really matters is what TISAX clearance the company has. In most cases, companies have the smallest possible label, Info High. Attention! These companies are not allowed to process secret information. How do you deal with this topic in everyday life? There's only one way: classification. We need to classify the information into different levels of security. There are 4 different levels of classification. Information classified as public is data that is either already in the public domain or is intended for distribution to the public. They can therefore be distributed without risk, nor do we need to protect this information. The internal classification applies to all information that is only used in business processes and whose unauthorized distribution, alteration, or corruption does not result in significant damage to the company concerned, its customers, employees, or partners. For us, this means that not everyone has access to the information, but only, for example, all employees in the company. If information is classified as confidential, its distribution, modification, or corruption usually leads to serious damage for a company. Confidential information includes all customer or project data and all personal data. Not all employees have access to it either. In many cases, clients even demand separate confidentiality agreements with all employees involved in the project. There is another level with information classified as secret. It refers to all data whose unauthorized publication, modification, or corruption can lead to devastating damage. The clearly restricted group of persons requires a separate security clearance to gain access to this information. There are also special physical measures, such as a project office, to which only employees with a security clearance have secret access. That's it. You've reached the end of the TISAX training. I hope you're a little smarter than you were before. What we learned today. What is information security? What is an ISMS? What is TISAX? TISAX labels. And what classification levels there are. Thanks for your attention and see you soon.